There are women who move through life with an energy that feels rare, almost unexplainable. They're not loud, they're not trying to prove anything, but their presence is unforgettable. They carry something deeper, a strength, a peace, and a confidence that doesn't need validation. These are not ordinary women, they are the rarest women in the world. What makes them different isn't luck or perfection, it's the way they think, the way they carry themselves, and the quiet power they hold within. The rarest women are deeply self-aware, and that awareness is what separates them from the rest. They move through life with an understanding of who they are, not because someone told them, but because they took the time to discover it. They've looked in the mirror long enough to see beyond the surface. They know their strengths, but they also know their flaws, and they don't hide from them. They've learned that self-awareness isn't about being perfect, it's about being honest. They are the kind of women who can sit with their own silence and understand what their emotions are trying to say. When they feel hurt, they don't project it on others. They trace it back to its source. When they feel joy, they don't question it. They live in it fully. This level of awareness makes them intentional in everything they do. They don't just react to life, they respond with purpose. They are aware of how their energy affects the room, how their words carry weight, and how their choices shape their path. They think before they speak, not because they're afraid of being wrong, but because they understand the power of self-control. A rare woman doesn't chase validation because she validates herself. She knows that the world can't define her worth because she has already done that on her own. She understands that trends fade, opinions change, and people project their insecurities onto others. But when you are self-aware, none of that shakes you. She knows what she values: peace, growth, authenticity, and she doesn't trade those values just to fit in. She isn't easily influenced by noise because she listens to the quiet voice inside her that always tells the truth. That voice becomes her compass, guiding her away from things that drain her spirit and toward things that nourish it. She has learned that awareness requires accountability. She doesn't point fingers or make excuses when life gets difficult. Instead, she asks herself what she can learn, how she can grow, and what she can do differently next time. That mindset turns every experience, good or bad, into wisdom. The rarest women are not afraid of their emotions. They don't suppress them or let them explode uncontrollably. They understand them. They know that every emotion has a message. Anger often hides pain, sadness can mean loss, and fear can signal growth. They sit with these feelings until they understand their meaning. This emotional honesty makes them strong in ways most people don't see. They don't need to fake happiness or pretend to be unbothered. Their strength comes from their willingness to face themselves fully, even when it's uncomfortable. Self-awareness gives them emotional clarity, and with that clarity, they make better decisions, build healthier relationships, and create more balanced lives. They know who they are when no one is watching. They know what they stand for when everything around them is uncertain. And because they've done the hard inner work, they walk through the world grounded, calm, and unshakable in their sense of self. The rarest women have mastered emotional control, and that mastery is what gives them an aura of quiet strength that cannot be faked. They don't let their emotions dictate every word or action because they've learned through experience that reacting in the heat of the moment often leads to regret. They understand that composure is not a sign of weakness, it's a reflection of maturity. When someone tries to provoke them, they don't rush to defend their pride. When someone disrespects them, they don't crumble or lash out. They pause, they breathe, and they choose their response carefully. This level of control doesn't come naturally. It's the result of deep self-discipline and emotional awareness. They've learned that not every situation deserves a reaction, and not every comment deserves their energy. They pick their battles wisely because they value their peace more than proving a point. They know that silence can say more than words ever could, and walking away can sometimes be the loudest statement of self-respect. A rare woman understands that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. She allows herself to feel them fully, but she never allows them to take over. When she's angry, she doesn't act impulsively. She steps back to understand where that anger comes from. When she's sad, she lets herself process the pain, but doesn't let it define her. When she's disappointed, she learns from it and moves forward. This kind of control doesn't mean she suppresses her emotions. It means she channels them in ways that serve her growth instead of sabotaging it. She knows that reacting emotionally gives power away, while responding intentionally takes it back. This mindset helps her navigate relationships, work, and life with balance and wisdom. She becomes the calm in the storm, the one others look to when everything feels chaotic, because her energy is steady, grounded, and dependable. The rarest women are not easily provoked because they understand that losing emotional control is often exactly what others want. They recognize manipulation when they see it. They've learned that people will test their boundaries, push their buttons, and try to make them doubt themselves. But emotional control gives them the ability to rise above that. They don't allow someone else's chaos to dictate their inner peace. They can walk away from arguments that lead nowhere, disengage from drama that offers no growth, and remain unshaken even when misunderstood. They trust that their calmness is not indifference but strength. They've learned that peace is not something found in perfect circumstances, but something maintained through conscious effort. Emotional control gives them freedom, freedom from regret, from unnecessary conflict, and from the exhaustion of reacting to every situation. It allows them to see clearly, speak wisely, and act intentionally. Their calm presence commands respect without demanding it, because people can feel that they operate from a place of stability and self-trust. They have mastered themselves, and in doing so, they have mastered how to move through life without letting the world pull them off balance. The rarest women value solitude, not because they are antisocial or distant, but because they have discovered the beauty and clarity that come from being alone with their thoughts. They understand that solitude is not loneliness. It is a sanctuary where they reconnect with themselves. While others seek constant distractions or validation from the outside world, they retreat inward to recharge their energy and protect their peace. They know that when the noise of the world becomes too loud, the answers they need are often found in stillness. Solitude allows them to listen to their intuition, to process their emotions, and to realign their priorities. They use that time not to escape from life, but to gain a deeper understanding of it. They realize that spending time alone builds emotional independence, and emotional independence is what keeps them strong even when life feels uncertain. A rare woman does not fear being alone because she has built a life that feels full even in silence. She doesn't need constant company or validation to feel valuable. She enjoys her own company because she's learned to nurture her mind, her body, and her spirit. She spends her alone time reading, reflecting, creating, or simply resting, knowing that these moments of quiet growth are what make her more self-aware and grounded. She has learned that when you're comfortable with solitude, you stop settling for half-hearted connections or empty conversations. You no longer chase people who drain you because you understand that peace is more precious than attention. The rarest women know how to be alone without feeling incomplete. And that is a rare kind of strength in a world where so many people fear their own silence. Solitude teaches them self-reliance. They learn to make decisions without needing to consult a crowd. They develop clarity about what they want, who they are, and what kind of energy they allow into their lives. That clarity becomes their protection. It keeps them from falling into toxic cycles or losing themselves in relationships that don't serve their growth. They understand that when they spend time alone, they strengthen their connection to their purpose. They begin to recognize what truly matters and what was only noise disguised as importance. They use solitude as a space to heal, to forgive themselves, to let go of what no longer fits, and to prepare for what's coming next. It becomes a sacred time of realignment where they can shed the weight of expectations and return to their authentic selves. The rarest women don't depend on others to fill their emotional voids because they've learned how to fill them on their own. They've built inner worlds rich with purpose, gratitude, and peace. They understand that solitude is not isolation, it's self-preservation. It's how they maintain balance in a world that constantly demands their attention. It's how they keep their spirit untangled from the noise of the crowd. And it's why, when they do step back into the world, they radiate a calm confidence that makes their presence feel powerful without saying a single word. The rarest women hold high standards because they understand the difference between being demanding and being deserving. They know their worth is not negotiable, and that self-respect is the foundation for every decision they make. They don't chase love, attention, or approval because they've learned that anything built on chasing will eventually lead to disappointment. Instead, they attract what aligns with their values, their peace, and their purpose. They are not impressed by surface-level charm or temporary validation. They look for depth, consistency, and integrity. Their standards are not about arrogance, they are about self-awareness. They know what kind of energy they can allow into their life, and they are not afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't meet that standard. This doesn't mean they think they're better than anyone else. It means they've learned to protect the peace they've worked so hard to build. A rare woman holds herself to the same standards she expects from others. She doesn't ask for loyalty if she isn't loyal, and she doesn't expect honesty if she can't be honest herself. She understands that high standards start within. The way she treats herself becomes the model for how others treat her. She sets boundaries without guilt, knowing that boundaries aren't walls. They're filters that separate what helps her grow from what holds her back. She doesn't tolerate disrespect, not because she's difficult, but because she values emotional safety. She understands that settling for less doesn't make her humble, it makes her lose pieces of herself trying to please others. That's a price she refuses to pay. Her standards are shaped by the lessons she's learned through pain, through disappointment, through moments where she once accepted less than she deserved. Those experiences didn't make her bitter, they made her wise. The rarest women understand that not everyone can meet their standards, and they're okay with that. They would rather stand alone in peace than be surrounded by people who drain their energy. They know that quality is always more important than quantity. They're not impressed by popularity, they're impressed by consistency. They don't get attached to potential. They value effort and integrity. When people say she's too picky or too strong, she doesn't take it personally. She knows those words often come from people who are uncomfortable with accountability. She's not looking for perfect, she's looking for genuine. She values honesty even when it's uncomfortable and respect even when it's tested. She has no interest in lowering her standards just to make others comfortable because she knows that doing so would only create temporary happiness and long-term regret. The rarest women have learned that having high standards doesn't make life easier, but it makes it more peaceful. It filters out what isn't real and keeps their space pure. They are not afraid of being misunderstood for choosing themselves. They have walked through enough disappointment to realize that protecting their standards is a form of self-love. When they say no, it's not rejection. It's redirection. They understand that every time they choose peace over approval, they reinforce their worth. Every time they walk away from something that doesn't serve them, they make space for something that will. And every time they uphold their standards, they remind the world that the rarest kind of woman is the one who refuses to forget what she deserves. The rarest women lead with quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself, but is felt by everyone around them. Their strength isn't loud or aggressive. It's steady, patient, and deeply rooted in resilience. They don't seek control over others. They've learned to control themselves. They don't need to prove their power through dominance because they understand that real power is about self-mastery. They face challenges not with fear, but with faith in their ability to rise again. They've endured enough storms to know that chaos doesn't break them. It refines them. They've walked through moments where they had to rebuild everything from nothing. And because of that, they carry a calm that only comes from survival. Their strength is quiet because it comes from experience, not ego. It's not something they perform, it's something they embody. They have been tested, and instead of becoming hardened, they've become wiser, softer in compassion, but sharper in discernment. A rare woman's strength lies in her ability to stay kind even when the world gives her reasons not to be. She doesn't let bitterness take root because she knows it only poisons her own peace. She forgives, not because people always deserve it, but because she refuses to let resentment own her spirit. She chooses grace, not weakness, but wisdom. Her heart has been broken before, yet she still believes in love, in goodness, in new beginnings. She understands that strength isn't just about endurance. It's also about vulnerability, about allowing yourself to feel, to heal, and to keep going despite the pain. She doesn't wear her struggles like armor. She carries them like lessons. Each scar becomes a story of how she survived and what she learned. That's what makes her presence so powerful. She's not untouched by life's difficulties. She's transformed by them. The rarest women don't need attention to validate their worth. They can walk into a room and command respect without saying a word because their energy speaks before they do. There's a confidence in the way they carry themselves, a quiet assurance that comes from knowing who they are and what they've overcome. They don't shrink themselves to make others comfortable, but they also don't use their strength to overshadow anyone else. Their leadership comes from empathy, their influence from integrity. They are calm in crisis, compassionate in conflict, and courageous in uncertainty. They don't react to everything that tries to pull them off balance because they've learned that peace is the real measure of strength. Their stability is not something given to them. It's something they built through patience, discipline, and an unshakable belief in their own resilience. The rarest women understand that being strong doesn't mean carrying everything alone. It means knowing when to rest, when to ask for help, and when to let go. They've learned that surrender is sometimes the bravest act of strength. They move through life with grace because they've made peace with what they can't control and found power in what they can. They know that strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about being able to bend, heal, and rise again. Their presence inspires others, not through speeches or declarations, but through the way they live, love, and keep standing tall no matter what life throws at them. Their quiet strength becomes their signature, a reminder that the rarest kind of power is not in noise or control, but in the peace of a woman who knows her worth and trusts her path.